Well, hey everybody, Bruce here. In this video I'm going to give you some tips on how to set up your RC300 in a live band environment. Let's start out by talking about your signal going into the RC300. Usually what most of us do is we will record our mono input. Let's say we'll put our guitar into the left mono instrument input of the RC300. What this does when it plays back, then it's in both channels. But what I'm doing is I'm recording a bass pattern as well, and I want that bass pattern to run through a separate signal path over to a bass amp, or a subwoofer. So here is my plug for my bass guitar. If I plug that in the right channel, now what happens is everything I record on my guitar is going to be on the left channel. Everything I record on the bass is going to be in the right channel. So another thing we can do is, let's say later on, if I don't have my bass hooked in, which I'm only going to have hooked into the system at home when I'm pre-recording some bass tracks for some songs to play live, because I'm playing in a duo. So we want to have our bass parts recorded in advance. So obviously I'm not going to have my bass hooked up to it live. So what I need to do is I need to take a dummy plug like this, any kind of mono dummy plug, and I need to plug that into that right channel, because what this does now is that it allows everything that I do on my guitar to remain over in the left channel. So I'm recording my rhythm parts live on stage, then it is remaining only in the left channel. And the reason that's important is if I didn't have this in, my bass pattern that I pre-recorded would still remain in the right channel because that's where it was recorded. However, if I recorded any rhythm parts or whatever live to play lead over, it would record in both the left and the right channel. And as I said before, my signal path is such that I want my right channel to go to a bass cabinet. It goes into the board and then is routed to a submix over to the bass cabinet. So if I had recorded my rhythm pattern live without this plug in it, my rhythm pattern would go over to my bass cabinet, and that really messes up my mix. So now that we have control over what signals are going into the left and the right channel and keeping them separate, obviously what we want to do is we want to take the left and the right channel output from the RC300. We're going to run those over to, in this case, over to our mixing board, where we have our left channel here, which is the labeled RC300 guitar, and the right channel, which is labeled RC300 bass. This gives us control over those two signals into the main mix. Now the bass is also routed into a signal path that will go to a submix. I have several submixes, and here it comes over here in this submix. Here's my master, and here is my my bass submix. So this channel right here is going to give me control of how much of this signal out of this board is going to be sent over to that bass cabinet. And as I said before, I've made sure that there's no guitar signal mixed in with this. So this is strictly the right channel from the RC300. And I set these up with the gain up here on the board so that I can move these both up together. So the main mix has got the bass mixed into the main cabinets, but then in addition to that, I have control over sending the bass signal over to a standalone subwoofer or a bass cabinet by itself to give us a lot of punch in a live environment. So our duo consists of a drummer and myself, a guitar player and a singer. So the way we're going to set this up is we obviously don't want to have the drums or the rhythm from the RC300 coming out through the main speakers to the audience, because we have a drummer, and it would always be in conflict, if nothing else in style. So we're using a kick and hi-hat 2 as a type of count-in. It's just basically a thump sound that sometimes helps us to get a song started, but then we want to basically ignore it after that. a couple of things we've done with this is that we run this through a submix. So if I come over here to my rhythm edit, let me exit this and come over to the edit, and we'll come back to where we were. And then if we come over a couple of steps, we'll see that the rhythm output I have got routed it defaults to the main plus sub. I have got it routed to the sub, so that means that that rhythm pattern will not come out with this main output here into the board. It's going to come out of a sub, and then I can run that over to the board, and it strictly goes into the monitor mix. It does not go into the main output of the board. Besides having sort of a cheat sheet on how everything is set up, I also set up the actual naming conventions on the window here so that I can look down quickly and see. And we know we have 3 tracks, so you don't have to go 1, 2, 3. You know that the first is going to be the first track, second and third track. For instance, the name of this song is Aiko Aiko. The first track is the intro, the second track is the verse, and the third track is the chorus. Frequently what I will do to end the song, I will go back to the intro, which typically loops, and I can do an extra as the same as an intro. But there's a lot of different ways of setting up these songs. Most of these songs are in single track mode. If they're not, I have it marked on my sheet. But let me give you some other ideas. This one right here is an intro, a verse, and then the third track is an end that comes to a complete end. It doesn't loop. It says it goes through 3 bars and then it ends, okay? This one right here says this is an intro, this is the verse, but this means that I'm going to record additional material into the verse part. And then that's the end. Here we have a verse, we have nothing in the middle track, and here we have an end that goes to a complete stop after 3 bars. This exclamation point here means that it's going to start immediately as soon as I press the pedal. There is no count in. So when I have an exclamation point, when you hit that pedal, you're off to the races. So here's verse, chorus, and ending. Here is a instant starting on the verse. This is an F major 7th chord that I know it's meaningful to me in the song. I know exactly what that means. And then this goes to the chorus. So it turns out that the verse goes to the F major 7th. It kind of vamps there, and then it goes to the chorus and back to the F major 7th. So the F major 7th tells me everything I need to know about what's in that track. Here is a verse, a chorus, and a solo. And here is 2 verses that are essentially the same chord progression, except that they have a different sound to them. This has a very strong intro sound, and this has a milder sound, so that when the vocals are going on, I want to use this one. When I want to play instrumentals, I use this one. So you see that I have this naming convention here. The small b means that Lay Down Sally, this is the intro with only a bass. It only has a bass pattern there, and I need to, somewhere before I leave this and switch to another track, I need to record the chords over the bass so that when I get to the lead part, I can come back and I'll have the chords recorded for the lead part. So these are all notations, again, ending with only the bass. So these are all notations that I've come up with that tell me very quickly, by simply looking at the name of the song, how it is going to be structured. Also very helpful in a live environment is using an external pedal. Here I have it hooked up to Control 1, 2. I have this FS6 pedal. This uses the type of connector that looks like a stereo connector. It's called a TRS tip ring sleeve connector, and that allows you to step through your memory locations up and down like this externally, so that you don't have to reach down and turn the knob. That's actually quite convenient, quite nice. So one of the really big challenges is trying to figure out what you actually sound like, or what you're going to sound like in a live environment, as opposed to your enclosed practice room or your ambient environment where you're practicing. You have no idea how it's going to work out. You don't want to get out on stage and then find out that you have no idea how to set your volumes, how to set your mix, how to set your monitor mix. So you want to have that all figured out in advance. And the way we do it is we use a digital recorder, in this case my BR800, which is run, I've got the line out from the board, so my recorder, my record out from the board goes into the BR800. Now, just to give you an idea here, this is something that we recorded yesterday during practice. Let me see if I can get this going here. All right, and play that. So that's a little Cajun song that we were working on, and we can get a very good idea of how we're sounding, because this is recorded straight out of the mixing board. This is not, as a matter of fact, when we record, or actually when we practice, we turn the speakers off and we're only using headphones. So we are playing completely using our monitors so that we know exactly what we're sounding like. In a way, we can also emphasize, Steve can emphasize whatever parts of his drums he wants. I can emphasize my vocals, my guitar, whatever I need. But in general, we're getting the mix out of the main board. But you need to understand what it's going to sound like when you get away from your main speakers and you can't hear your main speakers. And we do not use monitors. When I say we don't use monitors, I mean we don't use monitor speakers, but obviously we have to be able to hear what's going on, and I use a good set of headphones. This also helps to isolate the drum sounds in this crowded environment to keep you from going deaf from standing right next to the drums, and also be able to hear all the subtleties of the mix. This carries the bass quite well and all the other more subtle components. So it gives you a pretty good idea of what you're getting as an overall sound. And then when we go to playing live, what we do is we switch over to the earbuds, because obviously you don't want to be standing up there with a set of headphones on. So the earbuds give us not quite as much clarity in all the detail, but it gives us a very nice, clean click track. And then each of us has our own headphone amplifier so that we can adjust our own volume. So we might be in the middle of a song or in the middle of a set and things are pretty loud and we need a little bit more volume. We can increase the volume here without going to the main board. And the main board will send the mix. If we want, for instance, more of the snare drum or something in the mix, we adjust that on the board. But usually once that's set up, the mix is, the monitor mix is pretty stable. Steve has his monitor mix, I have mine, and then we each have our own ability to change the volume on our own particular monitor mix. From my guitar, the signal goes to the booster pedal, and then from the booster pedal it goes into the input of the amplifier. I do not mic the amplifier. I take the effects loop send signal out of the back of the amp and I send that straight to the RC300 left channel instrument input. And what that allows me to do is to leave the volume off on the amplifier while we're practicing. So from the effects send, it comes down into the left channel input of the RC300, goes into the RC300, comes out of the left channel of the RC300 and goes onto the board. So we have two of these Yamaha DXR12 speakers that are 1100 watts a piece, a lot of power, and they're very flexible. On the back of the speakers here, We have three inputs. We have an XLR input here that we're running straight from our main mixing board. I have that turned off right now. And then here we have 2 1/4-inch inputs that can be used if you're playing solo, for instance. All you need is, you don't need a mixer board. You can actually use this as your mixer because you have 3 inputs and each one of them has a volume control. So essentially you have a mixer here. You could run your microphone in here, you could run your guitar in here, and you'd pretty much be in business. But here we have our digital recorder running in here, and I have this one on. We're not using the 3rd input here. So what this allows us to do is to record straight out of the tape out on the mixing board into our digital recorder, and then play it back straight into our speakers as if the audience were hearing it. So it has a very realistic capture of what's actually being mixed on the board and what actually would be going out to the audience. And so then we run that straight into the same cabinets that are going to be used live, instead of sending it, for instance, back to the board and getting it back into the mix somehow. We run it straight from the digital recorder out to the main speakers as if it were a live performance, and that's what gives us a very accurate idea of what our mix is going to sound like live. Okay, back to probably the most critical issue of all, and that is the click track. The RC300 does not have a decent click track. The BR800 recorder actually does. It has many different variations of a nice clean click track. What you need is a track that just goes click, 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 like a wood block or even a cowbell or something like that. But you want something that's non-musical, more like a wood block sound, and you want to be very sharp and very clear. And the RC300 is not capable of producing that sound. That is a major problem. So what I do then is I run my MIDI out from the MIDI out on the back of the RC300 over to my Alesis SR18 drum machine. And here you have this whole drum machine that I'm using strictly to generate the click track. Now let me show you what that sounds like. When the RC300 starts to play, it will generate a sync track out from the MIDI that goes to the drum machine, which is nice. It will also set the tempo, so you do not have to set the tempo on the drum machine. The drum machine will pick up the tempo from the RC300. That's the good news. The bad news is that you don't have a count-in because the RC300 does not send the MIDI signal until it's actually playing. And I use the count-in a lot. So, you know, the RC300 might go 1, 2, 3, 4 and then start. But you can't do that very well with this scenario. So let me show you first what the click track sounds like. I am going to turn the volume all the way off on this song, and I'm going to start this song by pressing start. Now you won't hear anything in terms of the music because the volume is off. However, it's going to send that MIDI signal, and I will take the headphones and I'll hold them down here so that the camera can hear that. And let me press the start. So there's our click track being generated from the Alesis SR18 or any drum machine. Turn it off. Now what would happen if I brought the volume up, you see, is I would be hearing the click track and the music. The audience would only be hearing the music, but I'll be hearing both. So if I start, so the audience is hearing the music, and I'm hearing the click track and the music. So you just need to learn to calm down and listen to the click track and play with the click track. And it's extremely important, you know, all this complexity here, it all boils down to being able to stay synchronized with the RC300 and have a very clear click track coming through at all times. So Anyway, I might have more to offer on this whole thing. Probably left some things out, but that's certainly enough right now to get you thinking about how to set up your RC300 to do more than just getting out there and making funny noises in a microphone and playing solo. So anyway, good luck, and we'll talk to you soon. You take care now.